Okay, so I just wanted to play that video. We actually had a conference last week here in London, and we actually played the video, and we actually got quite a good response from the audience in terms of understanding more about who Symantec were and what we're about. I ought to introduce myself. My name's Epton. I'm actually a director at Symantec, and I manage the new routes to market business, which actually is more partner-oriented. But for those of you in the room, I realise that you may not be partners. I know one is, for sure, or two. But basically, we work with partners to help look after our customers. And obviously, we can't deliver that on our own. But today's presentation is more around the internet security landscape and really some things that you need to be aware of. Some of the things that you're probably already experiencing, probably give you more data points and information. But also, towards the end of the presentation, we'll talk about how you can protect yourselves and keep your business up and running. Can I get a show of hands? Who would consider themselves a small business? Okay, so we've got a few. So medium organisation, large organisation. Okay, so I've got to be careful using the word SMB all the time today, so you have to forgive me. Public sector? Okay, so a couple of public sector. Okay, so I think the information applies to all of you. This is obviously more predominantly aimed towards the small to medium businesses, but actually the information and some of the things that we're seeing, I think, is as prevalent and relevant to all types of organisations. So just to give you an update in terms of who Symantec are, I've actually been at Symantec for 11 years. I joined what was a security organisation. And I've actually seen the organisation go through a massive change. We've managed to acquire a number of organisations, including Veritas, Message Labs, PGP, BindView, Altiris, the list goes on. We don't have enough time to go through them all. But literally as an organisation, we've gone from being what was a very security-oriented company to being all about information protection. As you can see, we, through our Message Labs organisation, we scan around 30% of the world's email traffic. We also manage over 200 million endpoints. So we can actually see things happening on the internet and on the threat landscape a lot earlier, a lot quicker than most other organisations because of the breadth and scale of our organisation. Also, we manage around 50% of the world's backup needs. So when you look at Symantec, we are the only organisation that actually only offers software in the main as the backup offering. We don't offer any hardware. We're very good at making sure that we meet your needs in terms of whether you're deciding to work with IBM or Lenovo or HP or whoever it may be, and we offer the best-in-class backup technologies to make sure that you have the ability to recover your applications, your data and operating systems, but also managing multiple layers of storage and backup requirements. And finally, as an organisation, we're going through some change. You may have seen an announcement in the last 2 weeks where Symantec has announced that we're about to demerge. And so what I want to try and do is give you a sense today of what that looks like and the reason why we're doing it. But let's think a bit more about why Symantec. So Symantec is an organisation, as I say, we have market-leading backup products, we have market-leading security technologies, and we are the market leader in those segments. Also, we want to be able to offer you a choice of deployment. What that means is that, for example, you may want to buy and acquire the software yourselves and deploy it on your own infrastructure, but you may have a situation where actually you want to outsource it to a partner or a development partner that maybe wants to manage the backup or the security requirements for you. So we offer ways for them to rent our technology and offer you, if you will, like a managed service. And also we offer cloud technologies as well. As I said, we acquired Message Labs some years ago, and Message Labs actually is the market leader in email security, and we found that you are able to outsource your email security requirements to Symantec, and the great thing is we give you an SLA that actually says that if we don't protect you, we have to refund you money, and that's quite a unique contract in the marketplace. Also, we offer integration. So, for example, we work with Microsoft and VMware to make sure that as you make your choices along your technology journey, we make sure that we can protect you in the same way, but also not restricting you. So every single one of our products and technologies that we offer allows you to make those choices, and even if you change your decision at any point on that journey, you know that the software that we've provided you or the technologies that we've provided you will support you in your choices as you go through. And finally, we're the market leader. I think that, you know, leadership isn't just about market share, so we do own the largest market share in terms of the backup companies and security companies out there, but actually it's about the technology and the investment we make. We actually invest over $1.2 billion every year to make sure that our technologies are best in class. And as we go through today, you'll understand why. So as a customer, you can make a choice whether you want to take the software, take the technology and install it and manage it yourselves, and we can help you and enable you to do that. But also, if you wanted to work with a partner of ours, we can offer hybrid or even hosted solutions as well. So let's talk a little bit more about what today's about. So today is about the internet security landscape, really what's happening and why are we coming to you with this information. And I think the first thing is that the Symantec has a global intelligence network. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but in essence, we have an organization obviously delivering endpoint security software. Every time somebody updates their files and data and signatures and stuff with Symantec, we actually get feedback from those devices to tell us what they've been attacked by, where did it originate from, and those kind of things. Also, we have a managed security services organization where we manage Cisco PIX firewalls as well as many other third-party vendors that we support, where we actually take and manage those firewalls and intrusion prevention systems. And again, we receive all the logs and the files from those devices. And as you can see, it really gives us a great way of getting a full view of what's happening. Also, these security operations centers that we have one in Reading, we have one in Amsterdam, and then we have one in North America, one in Japan, and one in India. So you can get a sense that they're the main sources of information, but we do have some smaller data centers dotted around as well. And basically what that allows us to do is take that information and analyze it, and we use all sorts of databases and various other ways of identifying that information. And then what we do every year is we produce something called the Internet Security Threat Report. It's a free document, and if you were to Google Internet Security Threat Report or Symantec Security Threat Report or something like that, it would definitely appear, and it's free to download. And what is great is that it gives you a very small synopsis really of what's happening. So you can literally flick to the area that's relevant to your business, to your country, and as I say, it's free of charge, and it certainly helps you to then understand what's happening. And I think that when I first started at Symantec 11 years ago, a long time ago, I can remember that a lot of the people that created the threats and the viruses were 16-year-olds. And so these 16-year-olds would sit in their bedroom. They would literally buy Hacking for Dummies, the yellow books where you can get like Word for Dummies and those kind of things. Literally, they would buy Hacking for Dummies, which would come with a CD on the back, and then they would create their own viruses. And their goal was to go out and knock over 25 mailboxes of email. And if they did that, that was a real celebration. So they did it for notoriety. It's a bit like when you're going down the tube and you see people graffitiing. Yeah, it's called tagging, apparently. It's called tagging. And they do it for reputation and brand. And that's really what was happening some 10 or 11 years ago. We found people just looking to create viruses just to knock systems over for the sake of it. Now, what we're seeing is literally we're seeing organized organizations or organized crime organizations focusing on ways to get information and financial benefit. And what I'll do is I'll take you through some of the ways that they're doing that today. So again, apologies if you're not a small business. I've got a slide here on small business, but actually it shows you that actually all organizations are looking at ways to secure their systems and their infrastructure. It is absolutely prevalent. The days of saying, yep, my PC's gone down, I've got a virus, are over. That was when you knew you had a virus. When your PC fell over, you knew you had a virus. Now, if you find out you've got a virus, the person that created that failed. They failed because they don't want you to know it's there. And so when you saw on the video the 246 days that it takes on average to respond, that's down to the fact that they do such a great job at hiding what they're doing. So literally we're seeing small businesses invest, and the reason they're investing is because we keep hearing about new threats that keep emerging. Now what's interesting about these threats is that these new threats are not brand new. These new threats are literally a evolution, if you will, of some of the really old viruses. So I can think of the I Love You virus by Melissa. I definitely opened that email because nobody loves me. But literally, we saw those viruses go around. We see people take those viruses and then they would put their own intellectual property on there. They would then develop it a little bit further, making it more complex. We've also seen the evolution where it's gone from just being a virus to actually looking to trap information, to take keyboard login, to taking screen logging. If anybody banks with Barclays, you'll notice that maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you used to have to type in your account number, then you'd select the third letter of your passcode. It was a drop-down menu, and that was to avoid key loggers. And then now we see pin sentry devices being used, which is all around algorithms. And so all of this is to do with the fact that the need and the security landscape has just evolved so much. So some of the things that we'll talk about from 2014 was obviously Dragonfly, Crypto Locker, I think real popular one, Crypto Locker, Game Over Zeus, and obviously we've seen a lot of retail breaches as well. So when we look at the breaches that have happened, the majority of those have been caused by hackers. I don't think that's any massive surprise, but then if you look at second, is it accidentally made public? So actually, the reason why Symantec went with a real promise of information protection is because the biggest threat to any organization isn't just what's outside of the organization, but also what's within the organization. And so that's users that don't necessarily understand the value of that information, or sometimes they click on something, coming back to the Melissa virus, where they think that email's been intended for somebody, and obviously they click on it thinking it's for them, and then it opens a door or a port or whatever it may be, and that information is shared. So you can see that a lot of the breaches that have happened. Also, we're seeing that there's a lot of theft. A lot of theft of devices. I can remember doing some work at the London Borough of Peckham for Oracle. This is something like 15 years ago, installing Oracle client access to their databases. And literally, we would install software 1 week, and we'd have to go back a week later because somebody had stolen all the PCs. You know, that's the kind of thing that happens. So when we look at those breaches, what were the things that were lost? And when you look at the things that were lost, it was names of people, the birth dates, the government ID numbers. And so the reason for this is that you start to then think, well, this is lending more towards passports, the creation of false passports, trafficking. But also when you look at home address, phone numbers, and those kind of things. And ironically, you can Google a lot of this information anyway, but a lot of this information, if you can access certain types of organizations and get this data, then it can be very, very valuable, which we'll go into. Also, what we're seeing is that I find it quite weird. So if you think about Symantec as a sales organization, we have a management team that then sit there every year and say, we must increase our sales, our profitability, and I'm sure your organization is no different. I find it quite weird that hackers sit in a room and they go, right then, Dave, you've only managed to attack 350,000 PCs this year, so we're going to ramp it up to 600,000. What are you going to do about it? And so literally what we're finding is that hackers are actually starting to create campaigns. Now my marketing team isn't in here, but if my marketing team could create a campaign as successful as some of these, I would be very, very successful. I'm joking. But literally these guys are creating not just one entry into a company, but they're finding multiple ways of doing it. So they might send an email, they might make a phone call, and again I'll touch on examples of that for you. So when we look at industries, and luckily I have a slide for everybody in the room, it's not small business focused. But literally when you look at the types of organizations that are being focused on, people in public sector, you see that government are being focused on, but also we can see service organizations. We actually see a lot of hosters, internet service providers being hacked. We've seen a lot of telecommunications, media outlets being hacked. So you get a sense of what's happening, and I give you a sense of why. So these are the types of organizations that are being focused on. We can see from left to right. Top of the screen, or in yellow, is 2,500 plus employees, and then down towards the bottom are the smaller organizations. On the left, 2011, all the way through to 2013. And what you can see is that enterprises are actually not being focused on as much, but that actually towards the right-hand side of the screen, you can see that small businesses are. The reason being is because enterprise organizations have an IT department, they have security teams, they also have the resources to be able to battle and put up the best defenses. Small businesses are now being focused on, A, because small businesses think that their business data is not relevant and not important and not worth anything, and because of that naivety, that is why they are being focused. And yet, if you're, I don't know, Jim that works for an engineering firm that provides parts to Honda in Swindon, then actually you're a stepping stone into Honda. So ironically, the small businesses and some of those smaller suppliers could actually give access to Honda to those big organizations that are trying to do things. We've also seen a rise in zero-day vulnerabilities, and for those of you that are not aware of a zero-day vulnerability, this is literally where we're seeing threats that have been created, and they are actually deployed and created in the same time period that even Symantec's Global Intelligence Network doesn't necessarily see it straight away. So within 24 hours, we could see something created and released, and then we can see it spread like wildfire. So that's what a zero-day vulnerability is. Luckily, within the Symantec technologies, we have heuristic analysis. Heuristic analysis basically means that if something looks a bit dodgy, then actually we'll stop it from happening. So if I was a virus and I was to describe me as a virus, a guy coming in, blue suit, too much gel in his hair, sounds a bit like Alan Partridge from time to time, then that would be what I look like. But heuristically, I might go into the toilets, change into my jeans, brush my hair in front of my eyes. You don't want to see that, trust me. And literally, I could get in. So heuristic analysis basically means, look, he looks a bit dodgy, I'm not going to let him in. So that's really what we have within a lot of our security technologies that allows us to make sure that we prevent things from happening. Also, we're seeing attacks being made not just at certain types of organizations, but at certain types of individuals. So, interestingly, personal assistants, I think the new name is executive assistants, are now being targeted. And the reason being is because those people are deployed, male or female, equal opportunity please, they're being deployed to basically screen gatekeeper email and information to the execs. And so they might find an email that says, this is for CEO of X, Y, or Z. They open the email, or they may think, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to open that email. Then they get a phone call asking them to do it, and I'll show you an example of that as well. So some of the industries, so we talked about the size of organizations, types of industries. We're obviously seeing like mining, public sector, and manufacturing. So this is my example earlier, is that we're seeing targeted campaigns, which basically means not only is the email being sent to that individual, but then we're also finding that people are making a phone call as well. So I've just sent you an email. Can you open the email for me, please? You need to pay the invoice. And literally that is happening. So they click on it, and literally that would deploy something. So what we're now seeing is not only are we seeing an evolution from, say, viruses to screen loggers to keyboard loggers, but also now we're seeing ransomware. And ransomware has grown exponentially. This is just a yearly view of ransomware in the last 12 months. And ransomware is something slightly different, because now what we're starting to see is people being held to ransom for their data. They know that your data is important. They know that you probably don't realize how important your data is until you've lost it. So what we're seeing is we're seeing a massive increase in ransomware. So just to give you a sense of that, this is where software is being deployed via an email through you visiting maybe a website, a media website that's been hacked into. And literally what we're seeing is that cyber criminals are putting a program, an encryption program for all intents and purposes, on your machine, and then basically saying, look, you need to pay the fine. You will be amazed at how many people will pay something when it looks legitimate. Even though it's based in the US and you're based in the UK, for some reason it seems okay to pay it. My father had a phone call from Microsoft who said that he had a virus and they could remove it for £70. And I said, isn't that very nice that Microsoft can ring every single one of their customers and do that service? Just not possible. But it's the kind of things that are going on. We're also seeing scams where people are offering fake antivirus. So when I think about the times that I walk around and I talk about the fact I work for Symantec, nobody knows who Symantec are, and I go Norton, and they go, yep, I know they are now. But literally they go, oh, I use the free stuff. And this is not me trying to persuade you to buy Norton, but it is available in all great outlets. But this is more around the fact that you can download false antivirus. And then you think you're protecting yourself, but actually what it's doing is it's making it even worse. So, as I mentioned earlier, the ransomware is getting to a point now. So the one that you saw previously with the US sort of look and feel about it was just pay the fine. And if you didn't pay the fine, they didn't do anything. Now we've seen a step further, which is we've now encrypted everything. If you want us to unlock it, you need to pay it. And if you don't pay it, we're not unlocking it. And the difficulty is that there's only very few organizations at the moment that can actually proactively stop this, because the way that they do it in so many different interroads into the organization, it's really difficult to stop that from happening. So there's only a very small handful of companies that can actually prevent this from happening. So talking about Dave and being at the board meeting of hackers, next thing they say, right, we need new market growth. What are we going to target next? And so mobile devices, it will become as no surprise to any of you, are being focused on. What I find shocking is that Apple devices are at 0%. Does anybody know why? Because the iOS is not opened up. They will not allow anybody to develop. So when you think about Android or Windows, they're very good because they want everybody to create lots of applications so you buy more phones. Apple have said, no, if you want to create something, you're going to do it with us in partnership, and we will only release it once we've tested it and checked it. So literally the reason why there are no real threats, and it doesn't mean that Apple are fully protected, but the reason there are no real threats on Apple devices is because they've locked the iOS, and that basically prevents certain things from happening. But you can see that Android are certainly enjoying their share of threats, and actually we're seeing to a point that even now you can download Angry Birds free of charge. Don't do it. It's not free, because what they'll do is they'll take all your data and they'll do various bits and pieces with your bank account, because it's got some very awful technology included within it that basically you don't want on your device. So as you can see that, smartphone users, no surprise, we're starting to see their challenges around mobile devices, keeping that data, keeping it secure and those kind of things. Also, we're seeing that a lot of people don't use great passwords. I nearly said, anybody do 1, 2, 3, 4 for their passcode, but I don't want to, just in case there might be somebody in the room. But yeah, so think about your passwords, think about backing your data up. It's amazing how many people don't use iCloud, and I know that some celebrities have got dodgy photos on there, and that concerns everybody, but I'm sure your normal family photos will be safe on there. But the reality is that you need to think about, if you lose that device, what you can do to prevent that device being, data being taken from it when you're using your banking apps. It is all going to happen there. If you think about us as consumers, as we flood towards mobile devices, we're seeing the hackers and everybody else follow us. And I think the analogy I would use with you is that 15, 20 years ago, we used to see people that would knock on old people's houses and say, oh, I'm the gas man, can I come in and check your meter? And then they'd steal the contents of the purse. This is just exactly the same thing that's happening, but instead of aiming on old people, what they're doing is they're focusing on, well, at one point, desktop and laptop devices. Now they're moving towards mobile devices as well. So if you think about it, mobile devices obviously brings a bit of a challenge, but also we've got some other things that are happening out there. So obviously we've got people using cameras, webcams, those kind of things. They're being attacked. So there are instances where we hear about people using webcams for their babies, to see them in the cot and everything else, and literally those cameras are being hacked. So that's happening. We're seeing people hacking into cars and equipment, but I'm glad to say that if you do have a refrigerator that is connected to the internet, it's safe. Your tomatoes and your cucumber is absolutely safe right now. Okay, so I've only got 2 minutes left, so I want to really just touch on the fact that there are Symantec's got a stand here today. Please come and see us. We've got more information. Obviously, the team there can take you into more information and detail around the technologies that we offer. But just to touch on those, if you're a small business or even a medium to large business, we offer best-in-class endpoint protection. This is not just antivirus. This is about endpoint protection, software firewall. This is about protecting the device when it's outside the corporate network as well as being on the corporate network. There's also application blocking, device blocking, so you can actually lock down the USB sticks that can actually access the laptop or the hardware. But also we have a endpoint protection that can be deployed via the cloud as well. So that means that you as an organization, if you've got lots of mobile users or remote workers, then you have the ability to configure and deliver. And then also finally is around the Backup Exec 2014. So Symantec offers Backup Exec specifically for Windows servers. Obviously other server operating systems can be backed up to it as well. And this is really where we want to be able to give you a choice of being able to back up your data, your applications, your operating system, and be able to back up that to a number of different devices. We still support tape. Apparently 62% of you are still using tape on a daily basis, believe it or not. So we still support tape, but also we still then offer the other choices around backing up to Amazon, for example, but also backing up to disk, to storage, and those kind of things as well. As I mentioned, Symantec.com/threat report. Also follow us on Twitter. That's where we will always announce everything that we're seeing. Has anybody got any questions for me? You're either bored or hungry. I won't say I've been bad. But thank you very much for your time this morning. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thank you.